Good afternoon, everyone. Time flies in one day. I'm Janice Scott, and I'm always proud to introduce myself as your President CEO. But to be honest, as I've reflected on today's town hall, I've really never been prouder. I know that each of you is giving your all to ensure that we continue to provide safe, quality care to the patients who are entrusted enough to us during this COVID pandemic outbreak. And today, though, we really want to take a moment to focus on you. When I think about healthcare workers in general, I'd say we have a certain degree of resilience. And that resilience is because many work many shifts, it's hard physical labor, it's very stressful from an emotional perspective. So there's some inborn resilience in all of us. But this is different. This pandemic is a marathon. And with that, we think we need to ensure that we're helping you, Team RVH, build more resiliency into your daily lives. And to do that, very early in the pandemic process, we actually started a resiliency committee. You would have seen some of the members of that committee at the last bit of information we provided to you. But I think it was really important we recognized early that given the length of this pandemic, we needed to make sure that we were really focusing on how we can help all of Team RVH stay strong during this pandemic. And so with me today, I have some members of the Resiliency Committee, beginning with Dr. Jim Shaver. Jim is well known to all of us as a family physician, leader in palliative care, former chief of staff, and currently the medical director of mental health and addiction. So welcome, Jim. We also have Reverend Dr. Dwight Biggs, and he's our spiritual care leader, so welcome, Dwight, as well. Someone who needs no introduction, Char Lamarant, and Char is an RN in the emergency department. How many years have you been with us, Char?
25 this year.
25 this year.
Looking forward to that dinner.
Char is also the coordinator for Local 134 and the bargain unit president for RVH. So thank you for joining us. And Dr. Gwen Jenkins. And Gwen is a clinical psychologist in our mental health and addictions program as well. So thank you very much, panel, for coming together, and welcome to all of our panelists as well. So we thought today's program on resiliency, our resiliency, would be best to really go to the questions that Team RVH has raised with respect to resiliency. And as Jim so pointed out, he had a lot of these questions to deal with, actually. But let's start with Dr. Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins, or Gwen, what is resiliency? Some days I feel very strong, but other days I could sit in a corner and cry. Does that mean I'm not resilient?
No, it doesn't. Being resilient doesn't mean that we are machines. It doesn't mean that we don't feel sad. It doesn't mean that we don't feel scared. And it doesn't mean that we don't feel overwhelmed. Everyone I've talked with is feeling overwhelmed at some point, whether they have grandparents who are unwell, whether they have jobs that are under threat, or whether they're just bored. A lot of our kids are bored. They miss their friends. So resiliency is something that at times we are going to feel strong, and at times we are going to feel overwhelmed. We are going to feel weak, but it's important that we don't see ourselves as weak. It begins by saying, I don't feel good, and there's a really good reason for that. That's validation. And that's something that we do in therapy, and it's the beginning of recovery from something like this. So what is resiliency, and how can we have more of it? Again, it's not something that we're born with. It's something that we develop in response to these kinds of situations. And there are two parts. It's what we do here and now, and it's what we do after COVID ends. When the crisis ends, it's about adapting to lives that have changed, and they are going to change, whether it's the environment or whether it's how we feel about our world. It's going to change. In the case of COVID as well, there's another layer because we don't know when it's going to end, how long it's going to last. And that brings that whole other layer of worry. But when we look back, resiliency is a shift in mindset. And when we look, we've already changed. We've already adapted in so many little ways. Things like washing our hands 1,000 times a day, everything that we're doing in terms of our masks and social distancing. Focusing on what we have done is a nice predictor of how we're going to manage to adapt in the future. As resilience is very much based on our sense of control as well. So one of the things that my patients say to me time and time again is they feel like they are being controlled by things in the world that is out of control. They have restrictions in terms of who they can meet, when they can meet them, what they can do. Again, resiliency is about shifting our focus to what control do we have? And yes, the direction is coming from outside, but we're in control of that. We're in control of our response. Another thing about resiliency is feeling as if people have our backs, like somebody cares. And frontline workers are very used to that. Frontline workers know who has their backs every day. But for most of us, it's not something that is up front and center. It's not something that we think about. But there are things in place that are being done to care for us. Lots of things are being done to care for us. One thing we do in therapy is a gratitude journal. And the gratitude journal is about shifting our focus to what we have rather than what we don't have. And it's the same with resiliency. We shift our focus to everything that's being done to keep us safe every day, like our masks, like swiping in instead of using our fingerprints. Those kinds of things are being done to keep us safe every day. And we need that. We need to have a mental mindset of, check, this has been done today. Check, this has been done today, because that's going to keep us safe. So going back to the question about, are we going to feel weak? Are we going to feel strong? Yeah, we're going to feel both of those. Because as time goes on, this is a work in progress. Resiliency is a work in progress. I think we're doing a great job.
Thanks very much, Gwen. Next question is to you, Dwight, and that is, I'm very focused on doing my job and caring for my patients. But when I get home, I find it really hard to shut it off and decompress. What advice do you have for me?
Thank you, Janice. Very practical question for all of us to think about. So I have a question back to all of you. And you can think of an answer in your mind for this one, not that you have to say it out loud, but if I were to give you 15 minutes of time right now, that you could do whatever you want within your ability to be able to help you relax, what would you do? Think about that for a minute. So the ideas that you come up with in those few seconds, I'm wondering if when you finish your shift today, if you could go home and implement those things you thought of for 15 minutes just to take care of yourself. How do we decompress? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we relax? We're all different people. We all do it differently. And so there's all sorts of ways for us to process what's going on, the struggles we're facing, how to clear our minds, how to make sense of things. And I'll offer you, if you had a blank slate when I asked the question, I'll offer you a few practical suggestions maybe to help you along on this. When you go home, whenever it is today, if you have some family members there, maybe a loved one, just take some time, sit down with perhaps your favorite beverage, and I won't judge you on what that is, nice comfy chair, and take some time to talk about your day. What went on? What you need to get off your chest. If you don't have any family members there, maybe you'll want to simply give a friend a call. Someone you trust, someone who you could share your day with. Some other things we could do, if maybe we want to do things more by ourselves, we can go out for a run, go out for a walk. Take the dog with us if we want. If we need a little bit of company, ask the dog how its day was. It'll say rough. You can say mine was too. So maybe you're into meditation and yoga. Another way for you to connect your mind and your body as a way to clear your mind and to also help relax your body. Maybe you're getting in touch again with spiritual practices as we face these hard times. Maybe you found yourself praying to the God of your understanding again. Or maybe digging into sacred scripture or inspirational books to give you strength to face what's going on. And I'd encourage you too, I know Gwen was mentioning about a gratitude journal. Maybe at the end of your day, all you have to do is another form of a journal and simply write down all the stuff that's in your head, get it out of your head onto paper, so that you can leave it there. and then maybe have a clear mind for going about doing the other things you want to do. And one very other important practical thing that I think we all know, but we need to be reminded of every once in a while, is to get a good sleep. We know how much better we can handle the events of a day when we've had a good sleep. So a few practical discussions for us to be thinking about.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And Jim, so what are the physical and emotional signs that we may not be coping as well as we think? And of course, in addition to some that Dwight gave, what are some of the coping skills that you might suggest?
Thank you, Janice. I think to start, it's really important to say that anxiety is a natural and realistic expectation in these really difficult times. So the fact that we're all feeling this is entirely normal and natural. In my house, when my wife and I are stressed, which has been known to happen on occasion, we're married 35 years, we know we're stressed when my wife stops eating and I start binge eating. We laugh and say, okay, the family biomass has stayed the same, but some of us are winners and some of us are losers. So that's a cue for us to acknowledge that we're stressed, and it helps begin to sort out how we deal with it. But there's some clear physical signs that emotional stress is getting to you. You may have poor or altered sleep. You might have a racing heart, like mine is a little bit now. You might have shallow breathing. You might have digestive issues such as heartburn or diarrhea. And you might get muscle tension headaches, a sign of muscle stress. So those are classic physical signs of anxiety. Emotionally, we would also have some signs such as poor concentration, restlessness, maybe being more irritable than usual. We might feel overwhelmed, might avoid people or avoid tasks. And maybe to White's point, we might notice increased use of our beverage of choice or marijuana or whatever else we might use to self-medicate through difficult times. So those are some of the physical and emotional signs. How do we look after ourselves? Well, to pick up on what Dwight has suggested, I think it's important that we look after ourselves. We need good nutrition. Adequate sleep is really important. And take time for some exercise, I think, is also very important. I think it's also important to plan some sort of doable task during the daytime so that it gives a sense of normalcy and control in our lives that we can accomplish something. The other thing I think it's easy to do if we're stressed is to not call on our supports, kind of wall yourself away. So remember, whoever your supports are, family, friends, whatever, don't stop seeking them out. And I think also it's important to establish routines. We all have routines which are now different. I don't go grocery shopping. We go with the click and pick up at the grocery store. It's different, but we need to establish routines for the new normal. Those things are all important, but there may be times when that's not enough. And I think that RVH offers some really good tools. If you're just wondering, if you don't think you're doing well, or if you just want to check in and get a sense of a reality check, I think that the EAP program at RVH is excellent. Occupational health has good resources, and don't forget the intranet. There's a tab for self-care and resiliency, which our committee hopes to add resources to as we go through this. So I guess to summarize, recognize the physical and emotional stress and know that there's help from colleagues, but also professionally from the hospital.
Excellent. Well, this morning I was out for a walk very early, about 5:30 on the lake, and that was really, really helpful. And our family is looking at actually planting a garden as an activity to stay busy, but also maybe as another food source over the summer, so we'll see. So back to you, Glenn. I'm a healthcare worker, but I'm also a parent. I'm struggling to find the right words to explain what is going on and why I have to go to work in a way that won't frighten my children. Can you offer some tips?
Yes, thank you. Children are curious little creatures, aren't they? They learn that by asking questions, and sometimes they ask some really awkward questions. And when we're anxious, when we don't feel like we have the answers, we can feel a lot of pressure to say, yes, this is what we do, this is what we know. It's okay, first of all, to say, you know what, I don't know, but I'll figure it out for you. But secondly, we really owe it to our children to be truthful and honest, and that starts with being informed ourselves. So if you are feeling anxious, if you're hiding away from the news, you're hiding away from things, the biggest gift that you can give to your children is to be informed. Help them to know. But do they have to know everything? Do they have to know everything? It has to be developmentally appropriate. So for little kids, if we were to say, there are people with COVID out there, they're not going to understand that. It's not meaningful for them. But most little ones, by virtue of being in school, their little germ breeding machines, have had a cold. And so we can say that people have really bad colds, and that's why everybody's wearing masks. Masks can be really scary for young children. So if you're taking them out for walks and they see people with masks, they're going to ask. So make it relevant for them. Let them know that this is, a lot of people have it, and a lot of people can catch it, and we're just doing what we can to keep safe. Teenagers as well, I mean, they are connected to media, whether we like it or not, and they have access to so much. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and again, it's about us as caregivers being informed and making sure our children get the right information. In terms of appropriate language for youth, it may be an assumption that youth are older, they understand what COVID is, but no. There are going to be a lot of kids out there that don't. So again, make it relevant for them. It's like it's a bad flu, and this is what we need to do. In terms of reassuring them, though, children are going to want to know, Mummy, you're going to work, Daddy, you're going to work. Am I going to be safe? Are you going to be safe? Are you going to be bringing this home? And what's happening? Letting our children know what we're doing. This is why we're washing our hands. This is why we're doing social distancing. This is why we're not connecting with Grandma or Grandpa right now. That's hugely important to communicate to kids. You're modeling for them. You're letting them know this is what we do to keep ourselves safe. And this is why Mommy and Daddy are maybe on your case all the time, because we want you to be safe and you have to do this too. There are a couple of fantastic websites out there if people are not sure about how to speak to children in developmentally appropriate ways. There is one, I can provide the link for you. It's by Anxiety BC, I think it is. Yeah, Anxiety Canada. And their website is fantastic, so I would encourage you to check that out. But please, I think the bottom line is be informed and talk to your kids. Make sure that they're not frightened, that they're not getting information from other places. Let them know that if you don't have the answers, that's okay. You're going to figure it out together.
Excellent. Well, Shar, you're not only our local president, bargaining unit, you're a frontline nurse, and I think just generally based on your warm personality, people just come to you for advice. That would be my sense of things over the years. Oh, I can tell. So as a frontline emergency nurse, what advice do you have for the frontline colleagues who are feeling anxious about the pandemic and even maybe a bit burnt out?
Well, Janice, one of the things that, especially in our department, we've learned, unfortunately, really well this year, we've had a number of different things happen that has brought us together really close and showed us we truly are an emergency family. And as a result of that, people take on different caregiving positions. So some have become like mothers and coddling our coworkers. Some have become the bakers and feeding us. Others have been giving us humor, sometimes appropriate, sometimes not. And then there's also those that give us the good kick in the butt when we need it. What I can say is when we're checking in with each other, it's really important that you're actually checking in with someone. Don't just ask the question, but look in their eyes. Make sure that their answer meets what they're saying to you. If you're not seeing that, take the time to ask that. Are you sure you're okay? How can I help you? Be there for them. It's also important that our members feel safe to speak to each other and share their stories. They need to know if they tell us that I'm feeling really anxious, I'm feeling really lonely, that that's going to be received well, but also that it's not going to be shared inappropriately, that they're going to get the support they need, even if you don't have it, helping them to get it. And I also think that right now we're pretty good, or we're really good actually, at being kind to one another. Sometimes we're not so good at being kind to ourselves. And we need to remember that too. It's okay for us to have our feelings. It's okay to even be angry with yourself as long as you're taking care of yourself at the same time. I can tell you that when I feel my levels starting to rise, and that does happen, I step back as soon as I safely can, and I evaluate first, what am I feeling? And then I evaluate, why am I feeling that way? And then I look at what can I control and what can I not control. There are some things, this absolutely is a time where there's lots out there that we have no way of controlling. So we need to step back from those and take control of what we can, and that will help us alleviate those feelings. I know that we've just heard that it's important to be informed, but I also think that there's times where we need to tune out. Being tuned into the media, to the, online messaging and all of that information related to COVID is important, but if we're doing it 24/7, we're not giving ourselves a break. And so sometimes we just need to turn it off and let our minds focus on something more positive.
Excellent response. Thank you. And do you have any resources that you'd recommend that people follow up with?
I do. So many people in our building knew I was off a while ago. And as a result of a number of things that happened to our family, we lost my brother suddenly at a work-related accident. My husband was diagnosed with cancer, and then my mother died. A lot of things to take on. I have always seen myself as a really strong person. I've also, as the oldest child in our family, been the one that everyone goes to, so I'm a nurse, which makes me their nurse, but I've also been the one forever that they came to when they needed some support and someone to stand up for. Suddenly found myself that I didn't have the energy or the ability to take care of me, never mind any of those. Lots of times over the years, I've given out information about EAP, and during those times, never really thought about it for myself or that I would ever need it. As a result, I ended up connecting to EAP and was absolutely flabbergasted at how much information they could provide and how they recognized so quickly what it was I needed in my life to help me to recover. And so I want people to know that even if you've seen yourself as that person that would never need EAP or need support, or I'm a strong and nothing's taking me down, sometimes it is. And at those times, I don't want anyone to feel ashamed for reaching out, and I want them to use those tools because it's those tools that are giving me the strength I'm needing today. And on just a little note, I came up with a sign, and part of my sign is about my visual thing. When I see myself kind of crumbling as I saw it, which I think of my house and that being the foundation of my family, and I've had to replace some bricks over the years. The bricks needed to be replaced, they crumbled, they were repaired, but my house didn't fall down. My foundation was still intact. And so that's what I see us as. We are one big house, and we're all parts of the bricks that make up that house. And some of us will crumble at different times and might need some repair. But together, we'll continue to be the foundation, and together we will be strong. So here's my picture that I think of in my brain to help me stay strong.
Bricks crumble, together we are strong. Team RBH. That's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much. Dwight, I think we have time for one more question. What are some recommendations for a busy healthcare worker to reduce stress and help me refocus during my workday?
Another good question, very practical implications for it, because what do we do when we're so busy during the day that it feels like we hardly even have time to think, let alone take time for ourselves? And so one thing I would do for all of us and for our leaders who may be watching, leaders in the room, encourage your staff to take their breaks, and also be an example of that for your staff in taking the breaks yourself. When we have that time, even if it's a 5-minute break rather than a 10-minute break or a 15-minute break, it opens up a space for us to be able to do what we need to do to refocus, to maybe get rid of some of the clutter that's going on in our day. Maybe it allows us to go to the break room and chat with some colleagues who are there and just hear how their day's going as we share of our own day. Maybe we need to get off the unit or get out of the department, go for a walk outside, hear the birds singing this time of the year. It can be another lovely way for us to get rid of some of this stress, focus back on what we're supposed to be doing. A change of scenery sometimes can also lead to a wonderful change of mind or a change of perspective on our day. And if we don't have the time for the break, I really encourage all of us to be thinking about just take a moment to breathe. Sometimes we forget to do that too. Taking a few deep breaths, even if you can do it for only 20 seconds, you'll be amazed the difference that makes in your mind, in your body, and how you engage with others. And I'm inspired, Tushar, from your saying there, maybe it'd be good for us to carry around a saying with us. If we're so busy that we can't do anything else, we could carry around a saying with us. Bricks crumble together, we are strong. Or whatever that saying might be for us. I'm caring for others, I'm caring for myself. I'm helping others, I'm helping myself. Could be a really good thing for us to do. To give us that inspiration, the encouragement that we need, because the stress will be there. So what is the encouragement to continue on in our day? And maybe something else we could hold on to as well is that idea that we came up with when I gave you 15 minutes to think about what you could do to relax and to attend to your stress and everything going on in your day. Maybe hold on to that during your busy, stressful day and know that at the end of your day, it's something you can look forward to as a way to unwind and get rid of all the stuff that happened during the day and then get ready for another day. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dwight. And special thanks to our panelists. This is just an example of our resiliency committee that came together overnight about 3 weeks ago now. Includes Dan O'Donnell and Mary Spring, as well as Isabella Smolik and Lisa Thomason and Dr. Jeff Tyberg. So thank you very much, and you'll be hearing more from the committee for sure. In the meantime, let's be kind to one another. I really did pick up a number of pointers for myself and certainly the team that I work most closely with every day. We do need to demonstrate our values always, but so important with respect to this particular time in our lives. We have a gratitude section on the internet. We have inspirational wallets, Simcoe entrance, and of course last night there were a parade of cars came by and they were trying to tell us how grateful they are that we're staying here for our community. So I'm just going to end quickly with the fight to contain COVID-19 is often described as a war. Fittingly, Dr. Ken Hedges, a founding member of RVH's Patient Family Advisory Council and a former member of the military, sent me an encouraging note yesterday, and I want to share it with you. Let's pray that we can humbly be reminded of the lessons which got us through the first war. When fearfulness and greed and sharp elbows are replaced by a spirit of togetherness. When crowds turn into communities. When ambition and pride and status are replaced by our better angels. When once more we are awakened to the needs of our neighbor. And when all is said and done, to remember lessons learned and be thankful. So thanks for joining us for today's virtual town hall. Please check out the internet for more resiliency tools and watch for our daily updates. Remember, we are all in this together. Until the next time, find some pleasure in your day. And most importantly, thank you so much for all that you're doing.